Sportageous. Sport gets smarter.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Sportageous Cast, where we bring you insights into the sporting world straight from athletes, sports biz, sports professionals, and more. As you know, the Sportageous Cast is now available on video and audio, so rather than having to listen to a different podcast and a different video cast, you can just head on over, listen to it on your favorite streaming podcast channel or watch it on YouTube. Our guest today is Sian Kelly, who is 25 years old from Birmingham in the UK and is working as the Women and Girls Development Officer and National Teams Coach at Cricket Argentina. She also holds a first-class degree from the University of Oxford in Spanish and Linguistics and is currently about to finish her master's degree in sports management from the Johan Cruyff Institute. Welcome, Sian.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, look, I'm really excited to get the conversation rolling. So let's just get into it. First and foremost, I know this is probably a cliche sort of question that you get, but I'm sure a lot of the listeners and viewers would want to know cricket and Argentina. Those aren't two words that come together or you hear too often. Tell me all about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those situations where you have English expats and Indians, there will be cricket. Cricket was brought to Argentina years and years ago in the 1800s by English migrants who came out to work on the railways, and they actually set up their own clubs. They actually weren't very nice towards Argentines when they did set up those clubs, and they kept it as very sort of elite English sports clubs. They didn't like to mix. But then they found that they needed more members as English people had to go back to England, especially for things like the wars. And that's when Argentines of the elite as well also started to get involved. So as I said, cricket, you find it in every corner of the world where English expats go and where global expats go. But Argentina has, or what it has as an advantage compared to other countries in South America, for example, is those bases, those clubs that were set up already by those English expats years and years and years ago. So we're very lucky to actually have, 6 or so clubs that have the infrastructure and nets and a history of cricket. So yeah, it's a bit of a crazy story, and one wouldn't think that those two would go together. I certainly didn't when I first found out about it, but it's alive and kicking over here.
No, that's really, really interesting. And I do want to ask you a little bit about how you obviously got there. But before that, you talk about these existing clubs which had the infrastructure. So what has that system perhaps enabled? As you sort of touched on, they didn't necessarily have those in, I don't know, Bolivia per se, but they were existing in Argentina. So how was that beneficial?
I think mainly it allows for competition, and competition is really where it's the heart of developing a sport in a country. You need to be able to have clubs playing against each other, or you need to have certain bases at least playing against each other. So this allows for that club infrastructure to give you a base to grow, definitely.
Yeah. And of course, coming to you, Sian, on the one hand, you've got a degree in Spanish, linguistics. You're now doing a sports management degree. So there's a whole bunch of things to sort of break down there. How did you end up in Argentina? Obviously, having that background in Spanish and linguistics, that would have been very beneficial for you, and probably one of the reasons why you decided to sort of head on over there. But tell me a little bit about, that background and then how you sort of ended up being there with Cricket Argentina.
Yeah, so I've actually always played cricket really since about 9 years old, and I've played county level from 10 years old. So, I'd always been a keen cricketer, and I've carried it right through to university. I played at university as well. And then because I was studying Spanish, I had to do a year abroad in my third year at uni to essentially make sure that you know how to speak Spanish after graduating. So no, I was just looking for opportunities and things to do, and scrolling down the the job offers page, looking at unpaid internships and teaching English in Spain, and nothing was really catching my eye. And then I saw overseas coach Cricket Argentina. And at that point, the Association of Cricket Argentina, what they would do each year was hire 4 or 5 English coaches, or to be fair, coaches from other places in the world as well, but to come over for, a couple of months, go into the schools and basically be the on the ground staff to deliver, softball cricket in clubs. And I saw that opportunity and thought, just like what everybody else thinks when they first hear, wait, what? There's cricket in Argentina. And then looked into it more, and it turned out that they were looking for someone to coach their women's side as well. So I went over as an initial overseas coach for 6 months, and also to work on the women's national team too. So that was my first introduction.
Yeah, that's awesome. It almost sounds like, it was destiny and a sort of a match made in heaven, that sort of thing. So that is awesome because,
I mean, I'd never been out of Europe before. So I thought this is an amazing opportunity for me to travel and get stuck into a country that I've never really even thought about. Argentina wasn't on my radar, to be honest, at all. I didn't know much about the country, the people. I spoke Spanish, but it was Spanish from Spain, which is very different to Spanish over here. So I was definitely throwing myself in the deep end, I think, looking back, but it was a great experience.
Yeah, it doesn't seem at all like you made the wrong decision. And so just before I head on to my next question, to everyone watching or listening, be sure to go and follow Sian on her social media. It'll be in the description or the caption below wherever you are watching or listening. So be sure to do that and check out Cricket Argentina as well. I've personally been following them on Instagram for a while myself, and it's really, really cool. Coming back to the chat, Sian, it's obviously we're in a COVID world, and we were talking about this before we went live and went online. You were telling me that you're going into lockdown soon. What's the situation been like for Cricket Argentina, and particularly the women's game during the pandemic?
Yeah, so just to put in a bit of context for the listeners, or the viewers, our season over here normally is October to March. That's the main playing season. And then normally we would have some sort of international competition like ICC qualifiers or pathway events, or a South American championship in around September, October time. So that means our winter months, kind of April, May, June, July, August, there's still some sort of cricket because we're preparing for those tournaments. So we went into lockdown last year at the end of March, which meant that our off season essentially had no cricket at all. So that was actually, quite a trying time for us as employees of the Cricket Association to try to think about, like many sports organisations, what we can do to keep people engaged and keep working on developing cricket. So we actually organised some coaching courses, which we did, coaching, umpiring and scoring courses, which we delivered during lockdown, which went really, really well. We had, I think, over 200 participants from Argentina and all over South America. We opened it up in the end to other countries from South America. I created the courses and delivered them in Spanish as well, which was really good because, people could access something that they might not necessarily have had access to before. And so, that went really well. And then fortunately, we did have to delay the start of our season a little bit, but we managed to get quite a lot of our season in from November time onwards. In terms of how the season went, there wasn't as much as many schools that could participate as they would normally do because of the closures with the pandemic. But fortunately, in the clubs, we still had a pretty good season. We managed to get men's leagues in, women's leagues in, kids leagues. We have the traditional Argentine North versus South, which has been going on for many, many, many years. I managed to get a women's under 17 girls season in there. So games in there. What else can I tell you? So it was, slightly more reduced than what we'd have liked. Yeah. But considering, big picture, we managed to get a whole lot of development in. And I think taking, every cloud as a silver lining, some of the positives that came out of this was that Argentines were local this time around, because normally in the summer they tend to travel. So that meant, we actually had a bigger base than normal, a bigger pool of people that had to come and play. And also with the restrictions, we had to get people to sign up for sessions. They had to tell you when they were going to come, and that meant that people came when they said that they were going to come. We had originally, when we started off in some of the clubs, we only had 6 places for some of the girls. So you had 15 to 20 girls fighting for these 6 places. Created this demand, and people, they had to be on there when the list went out, and they had to put their girls on the list straight away. And I think that's never been done before in Argentina, because things tend to be very laid back. You show up if you want to, if you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
So just putting that structure in, I think actually, was really, really positive. And I think it's something that they should probably continue the next time around. So that's very long, but I tried to give you a comprehensive overview.
No, that's really, really interesting. And one of the things that I found particularly interesting about what you were saying was school participation. And I guess that sort of makes me wonder and ask you, grassroots activities in terms of cricket, are there, obviously with COVID, it makes things tougher, but have you had plans at the association? What are the sort of things that you are perhaps obviously have postponed to work on in the future, or have already worked on pre-COVID to attract younger people from that grassroots level to the game?
Yeah, so in terms of grassroots, as I mentioned before, we've got the 2 areas. We've got the schools and the clubs, and those sometimes cross over. The school season, sometimes they tend to do it in the winter. It depends on every school when they want to slot cricket in, but there normally is sufficient crossover to be able to play games against each other. So this year, essentially, schools have had to manage by themselves because, a lot of schools won't allow, I don't want to say foreign, external people to come into the school to deliver cricket. So, they've had to work out themselves how they can still deliver through Zoom, or how they can deliver following protocols in the schools. So fortunately, cricket has still been able to happen in some schools. What perhaps hasn't happened as much is, the big festivals that we like to organise, where, we have, 8 teams come together and all play against each other, that kind of thing. But they're still trickling through on the development side, so we haven't lost it all in one year.
No, that's good to hear. And obviously, sport is and cricket, of course, is one of those escapes essentially from what everyone's going through at the moment. When you talk about schools, Sian, so one of the things that we obviously recognize in the cricket world is that it's really, really elite. And because of that, at least here in Australia, one of the things that I know, barring perhaps the subcontinent where cricket's played everywhere, when you look at the UK, here in Australia, it's a lot more common for me to meet somebody who plays cricket, even if that's at a grade level here in Australia, who has gone to a private school. Right. Or otherwise it's, let's have a beer and play a bit of backyard cricket in the garden. Yeah. That's the culture here in Australia. So in terms of the schools that you talk about, what sort of schools are those that are involved, and have there been any challenges around that? Like, I'm coming from this preconceived notion that, it would predominantly be these elite schools that are playing the game.
Yeah, so the schools that the association works with, you're right. They are the more elite schools. They're the private bilingual schools. Often that is the attraction of cricket. They say that they're an English school, so it's great to be able to offer this traditional English sport. That is the attraction. So unfortunately, it is elite in that sense. There is a program over here called Cricket Sin Fronteras, which is cricket without boundaries, and they are not. It's not a program that the association runs, but we work with each other, and they they essentially go into the less well-off neighborhoods and go into the state schools, and they run fantastic programs with the kids there. So that's actually something that I really love about cricket in Argentina, is you've got these kids from totally different social economic backgrounds and totally different realities coming together on a weekend at Belgrano Athletic Club, which is one of the most elite clubs over here, and all playing together and having fun playing cricket. So I guess what you're missing really is that middle ground. We've got the two ends of the spectrum, and you want to get it out to the masses, and that's where things like government programs will come in.
Mm-hmm.
The general sports clubs, which are all things that they're quite hard to implement something new or try to get somebody new on board in a pandemic. They're trying to focus on themselves and not add anything else to their current system. So, but that's definitely the plan for the future, is to get more involved with the government and sport delivery in the city.
Yeah, look, absolutely. And one of the interesting things about that, Sian, is that we've done a few features with a couple of athletes in South America who play cricket. And one of them, of course, was Veronica Vasquez, who you introduced us to. And that was an awesome feature that we did with her. I think in both instances, when we asked what could help cricket really sort of, get its foothold within the country, they talked about the Olympics and government funding. Yeah. Of course, cricket's return to the Commonwealth Games, which I believe will be in your hometown, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that sort of thing? I know different people have different opinions, but I thought I might as well throw it out there. Olympics, what are your thoughts, cricket in the Olympics?
Yeah, I guess it's a bit of a cultural thing, because you try to explain how important and how big cricket is to people over here, and they really do struggle to understand. You have to say it's like football in any other country. Like, that's how big cricket is globally. I say to them, I use the stat over and over again. Cricket is the second most popular sport in the world after football, and they look at me and they go, "What, really?" So I think something like cricket being in the Olympics and being able to represent your sport in the Olympics gives it that bigger reputation. You have things like rhythmic gymnastics or martial arts or something that is an Olympic sport, and so people really struggle to comprehend, well, if those are in the Olympics, why is this big sport that you say is really big and popular, why is that not in the Olympics? So that's one kind of aspect, is just giving it that reputation, and helping people to understand how important it is globally. And the second thing is essentially funding. A lot of countries will give funding to sports organizations that have the specific goals of getting to the Olympics. I think Cricket Brazil have talked quite a lot about this. They're very vocal on that's their goal. They want to get there. And I think their government does have a very good scheme for teams that are going into the Olympics. That would be an absolute game changer for them, because there's only so much external funding you can receive from the ICC. So to be able to get support from your own country is absolutely crucial. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I have a lot of views on this, but I think my views don't really matter for this conversation. But I think for associate nation cricket, the Olympics are huge. And I don't necessarily feel personally that it's the same case for sort of the elite nations within the game.
Yeah, that's a different debate.
Yeah. So where's the incentive, right? Who's going to push that? I know that the guys over at Emerging Cricket are doing a great job in terms of promoting the game, particularly the associate nation game. So I hope that discussion and sort of drive continues. But look, I did really want to get into the crux of it, Sian, and ask you, we were talking about Veronica Vasquez earlier. Tell me a little bit about the women's team, a little bit about the players, because from what I understand, and as is the case in a lot of associate nations, you would be very, very fortunate to be a professional and do this full time. And that's not always the case. So in Veronica's instance, and for everyone watching or listening, be sure to head over to our website and check out the feature that we did with her, because she's a medical doctor, and also the captain of the team, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah.
Yeah.
So over to you, Sian. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely go and check out that article. You know, she's had a fantastic playing career. She's a wonderful captain, even better person. You know, she's been almost like a mentor for me, which is a strange role because I'm her coach and she's my player. But, you know, we've learned a lot from each other, I think. You know, she's looked after me here. I was quite young when I first came out. Still am, I guess. Yeah. But yeah, she's kind of the mum of the group. But no, overall, the girls are a fantastic group of people, extremely dedicated. Like you say, well, with a lot of women's sports, they're not professionals. They're not even semi-professionals. A lot of them are young players. You know, they're fitting all of this in alongside university degrees or part-time jobs. And especially, you know, in a country like Argentina where you don't have a cricket net 2 minutes from your house, or you don't have your pitch 20 minutes from you, you know, it does take a lot of dedication and a lot of passion to continue to play. And I think if I had to sum up the team in one word, I would say passionate. I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a team more passionate on the pitch than those girls. And it's really, really, really inspiring, definitely.
And what is it like, you know, because I would still like I've had South American friends who came to Australia. I'm like, guys, I'll show you what cricket is, so let's watch a game. Completely baffled, confused, right? No clue. So to me, it's still often strange to think that people in Argentina would not just leaving playing aside, even watch the game. So do some of the players actually, you know, sit down, watch the WBBL, for example, the IPL, which was unfortunately shut down, but those sort of things, is that something that you guys get up to?
Definitely. I mean, whenever they're available to watch, everyone over here is watching them. That's what I mean about the passion. You know, you've got people who stay up till 3-4 in the morning to watch IPL games. You know, the Women's World Cup was amazing. The Men's World Cup last year, I remember we were actually training on the day with England and New Zealand at that final, and I was getting the notifications coming in, and we actually cancelled training halfway through and went to watch it all together. So we've got to go and stop this. You know, the girls actually came to my house for the we had a game the next day, but for the Women's World Cup final. We were up till 4 a.m. watching the final in my living room before going off to play at 7 a.m. the next day. You know, things like that. They just soak it up, and I think it's amazing to show, especially newcomers to the game, what cricket looks like on the global stage. And it's so good now to have women's cricket available. You know, it's an absolute game changer. You know, I had a new girl this year who's amazing. She's a hockey player. And very, very sporty in general, and has really taken to cricket. And I distinctly remember one time we were watching a match. We did some analysis together on Zoom. You know, I often use some of the content. And she saw a reverse sweep and she said, "Wow, I love that shot. I'm going to go practice it next week." And she was in the nets practicing a reverse sweep. I just started this year, and then the next day, she did a scoop at 100 miles an hour on the machine, and I was like, so you know, it's that kind of passion, that kind of enthusiasm, which is really, really fulfilling to see as a coach.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and it's good to hear, because obviously I was pretty lucky in that I got to see 2 of the games here at the Manuka Oval in Canberra during the Women's World Cup. And, you know, it was awesome. We had a lot of fun. Couldn't go to Melbourne, unfortunately, but we were just really happy here that we got through the tournament before everything sort of kicked in. And no, it's great to hear. But Sian, that also makes me wonder then, at the same time, you know, like you just mentioned, the players are doing so many things and still committing to playing the game. From your context as a coach, it can't be easy. I mean, you know, like managing the players at the same time, being sure that they're doing the best that they can, also having fun, working on technique, things like that. But it's like in the case where, you know, over here, you can potentially make a living off playing first-class cricket. So that's not even at the international level. And it's similar in a lot of the elite nations. So people will dedicate all their time to it, but that's obviously not the case there. So what are some of the challenges for you as a coach when it comes to dealing with this situation?
Well, look, so I think you've mentioned quite a few there. It's finding that balance between being a strict and kind of, how do I best put this in words? Having high expectations from your players is really important as a coach, but it's also trying to manage those and not be too strict and try to be fun at the same time, because like you say, they're doing so many different things and they come to cricket for their release, for their bit of fun. You want to make it fun. You want to make it so that they want to come back. And sometimes certain players might not get on well with just doing drives over and over again for an hour.
Yeah.
Some players, like to be pushed harder. Other players like to come and have a chill time with their friends and chat most of the session. So that is one difficulty, trying to manage what your expectations are as a coach from your players. Another one is, the different levels of players. You've got two girls over here, for example, who went and played in the Trinidad and Tobago Big Bash a couple of years ago with, amazing players. And at the same time, in the same session, you could have somebody who's a complete beginner, which actually happened last night. Had a new player come and you have to work on trying to keep the session fun and engaging for the new player who doesn't know anything about cricket, and trying to really push and develop the skills side of somebody who has been playing for years. So that is really difficult as well. And then
that's quite a unique situation. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, continue. Yeah.
And then the other one is actually getting people to come to games, because they take a long time and the pitches are far away. There's one pitch in the city centre, and just like most city centres, you have to have the pitches in the outskirts. And because of we do have quite a few teams now, but there's still not enough to make small regional local leagues. So people do have to travel 2 hours, an hour and a half, get up early on a Sunday morning and get back late and lose your whole day to come and play cricket. But like I said, passion of the girls means that they just want more and more and more and more. We actually finished the league this year and we did it quite quickly. And I had everybody saying, can we do another one? Is there time to do another one before the season ends? And we managed to put on another league and they all played another round. And that was really amazing to see that kind of organic desire to play more matches. That was really great.
Yeah, wow, I can really tell that with that sort of thing, watching the games at 3 a.m., wanting to get another game, another series or another league in. That's absolutely amazing to hear. And look, lastly, Sian, before we sort of end things, I just wanted to ask, what are the sort of key targets for the women's game there? Or, what's just next in general, let's say, 6 months to a year down the line, everyone's had a vaccine, everyone's doing well, life is sort of going back to normal in some semblance. What are sort of the key focuses for you, yourself personally, and also for Cricket Argentina and the women's game?
Yeah, so during lockdown last year, I actually made a 3-year strategy plan. Which was based on 4 pillars. One was, participation at Grassroots. The other one was high performance. The other one was sustainability. And the other one was kind of like the commercial side of things, improving social media and sponsorship and that sort of stuff. So generally based on those 4 pillars, the idea is to make the growth that we've made happen sustainable, to consolidate the base that we have. Make sure that the people are in the right places, to make sure that once we've started cricket in one club, it doesn't die 2 years if one person leaves. So from that point of view, over the next 6 to 12 months, we want to be getting the same coaches involved, training more coaches, bringing more female coaches in, supplying as much cricket as we can in the same clubs that we have and the same schools that we already have, as well as targeting a couple of new clubs at the same time. You've got to be careful with growth that you don't spread yourself too thin and under deliver. So it's the next sort of phase, I guess, would be consolidating what we have and also trying to build on it in these small different pockets as well. So that's the plan.
Yeah, look, well, I really wish you guys all the best there. And, I hope everything gets better. The cricket continues to grow. I watch a lot of Argentinian football, even watch the league sometimes. So it's pretty good to see that cricket's also sort of, there is a presence there. And I think that from
Yeah.
my understanding, the presence in Argentina, I haven't come across anything like that in any other South American country. So it's really, really good to hear. For everyone watching and listening, once again, be sure to check out, go and follow Sian on social media. The links are below. Check out Cricket Argentina as well. Sian, thank you once again. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting to you, and really wish you guys all the best, and stay safe, and hope everything goes well.
Thank you. And thank you for having me and for giving us the platform to talk about what we're doing over here. Obviously, visibility is so important for us. So it's really cool what you're doing. And yeah, thank you for having me.